Hello, class. I'm going to go through the CEH lab footprint and reconnaissance. So I'm going to go through that lab, give you an idea how that lab works. I may not talk a lot during the lab, but I'll cut the microphone and talk if I need to. Otherwise, I'll just probably go through the lab, and then I may talk when I feel like there's some need to. So hopefully this will help you out if you're having problems with the lab. So in your environment, you'll just start the lab. And it should take some time to boot up. Alright, so the lab is booted up, and you have your scenario in your reading here. So make sure you read through stuff. Don't just try to skip through and get your answers and so forth for the questions or what you're trying to do. Make sure you read through so you understand what you're doing and the purpose for it. Okay, so as you read through the scenario, you'll learn about reconnaissance and footprinting. Alright, reconnaissance is going to see what's available on the network. You're going to basically poke around, see what's available out in the real world that might create a vulnerability to your company, and you're just going to go figure out what's all there. Generally, you want the scope of the work you're going to be doing, so you know the do's and don'ts of what you're going to do in this environment. And I would be honest with you, if you're an outside contractor, you want all that in writing. No doubt about that. So you want to get all your do's and don'ts in writing, so you have proof in case someone says you weren't supposed to do something, that you were told you were able to do that. So you want to make sure of that. So you'll read your objectives here. It gives you the background of that scenario that you're looking at. And it'll give you an overview of how footprinting works. Get passive, gathering information without direct interaction. And then you got active footprinting, which means you're actually getting involved in doing stuff. Right? Then you'll come down to your lab task. It'll tell you what you're going to do. And then you'll go through and perform your steps. And you'll notice that there's 9 parts of this lab totally. There's 9 labs within this one lab. So this is telling you basically what you're going to be doing for each one of these labs. And then you hit next here. And that'll bring you into your first part of this lab with the overall scenario that you're wanting to achieve in this first lab, which is perform footprinting through search engines. Right. Again, I will only talk when I need to. Otherwise, I'll just go through the steps in the lab, and then I may cut my microphone on here and there to talk. Otherwise, it'll just be me going through the lab. Alright, so I'm in Mozilla. I went to the Google's website. In the search bar, we're going to type out what it's asking you for. Make sure you spell it correctly. I left the E there for some reason. Alright, so you get your results coming here. So we can see this is the login for labs. It's kind of what they're wanting to show you, that you can get the login, see where the login site is for business. So now we're going to do a search for the extension. So we'll basically go that out. So we're going to do a search here. Looking for particular PDFs that might show up on CEH. And so we can click on any of the results that show up. There's a brochure. So I'll click on that one. And basically, what they're really doing is, okay, we're going to come here, we'll find some information. We can go through that information. We might be able to find contact numbers, different type of stuff about this particular company. You might get names. You never know. Might get names from other companies you might could go after as well. Alright, so you can look at that. And then if you see, they give you some other advanced type topics here. Cache, all in URL, gives you a description of what that's all about. In URL, all in title, in anchor, all in anchor, link, related, info, location. So all this gives you basically different items you can utilize in your searches. That will help you find things that you might be looking for or get you really information. Like I said, we're in the reconnaissance footprinting stage. So really you're just trying to gain information about potential targets. That's really what you're doing. And that's really all you're wanting to do. They're just going to have you go through. You could try some of these other ones if you wanted to. Just see if anything else will show up while you're in here. But the main goal is for you to see ways to use a search bar to find information. Okay. There was at one time where a lot of hacks would actually come through the searches. And they type in searches, and depending on what you may find out, you might actually be able to have a hack that goes straight into a database or something from a company because it wasn't secured. You know, so you can sit here and you can play around and see what information you could gain from it. So that's all that first part one was. Right. And then we go to the next one. So here in Lab 2, we're going to perform footprinting through internet research. Again, read your information. on what you're doing and the objective. Task 1, we're going to find the company's domains, subdomains, and hosts using Netcraft and DNS Dumpster. They're going to give you a description here. A lot of this stuff is free or will have company information that you can access. So they had me close this out, right? That was the first part. So then we're going to come in and we're going to open up a browser. So I'll open the Firefox back up. I did an update. Alright, so I'm going to go to the website here. Netcraft. So here we're at their website. So we're going to click on resources, and they have research tools. So in this tools page here, I'm going to click on Site Report. What's that site running? And we're going to type in our target here, which is https www.certifiedhacker.com and look up. Here is your site report. All right, you're going to get geolocation. You're going to get domain information. You could get email addresses of owners of the site or who does the maintenance. Just depends on which websites you're using to check this stuff out. You can get different types of information. So they have you go down to the network section. I made the box a little bit smaller because it help with a little bit of lag. So if you have those issues, you can make the box smaller, or if it's able to work good, you can go back to a bigger screen here. There we go. And that map makes it jump a lot. Alright, so there's my network. Alright, so click on the website and the domain. There's your website. So that'll just take you to the website there. If I was to click on the domain one, which is what they want you to do here. That's fine. Here's your host names matching. So you can see all their other host names matching. You'll see the mail servers. some other things that show up that could be attacked. You can see the operating system, which could be of value. So now we're going to look at trying to get their DNS servers. So we'll open up another little tab here. And I'm going to go to HTTPS. And as dumpster. And we're going to search for that website. So what this is going to do, this is going to go look up stuff. And you can see the information that's obtained. So you have a lot of information here. A lot of critical information. Right. A lot of information in here. That could open up to an attack. And this generally this is going to be this way for all companies. They're all going to have some version of stuff that's just available on the internet that you're going to have access to. Mail servers, stuff you can attack. That's just the reality of the way things are. So you also have right here. Information here. Locations. So we're going to scroll down to view the list of the DNS servers, MX record, host records. So you just see all these servers, different things. Your mail server records. A little bit of everything in there. Here's the layout of the company. Here's your DNS. You can see the DNS servers, IP addresses. A lot of this is going to be public information that you just have a website that's basically built out your networks. So that's how you can find out where a lot of things sit and reside. That makes it tricky to protect. Yeah. We could download this to view them. We can open that file. All right, so here's our domain profile summary. You can see your DNS records. Again, So this just kind of gives you an idea here on what you see. And then they also, you know, that just gives you can download the files out. So you got that information. They say you could also go on to a another tool they show here. So you got pen test tools, another one you could go off of. And then kind of run against your network to see what's there. You know, they give you 2 free scans for the free aspect of it. Alright, so now we come down to some questions down here. Alright. So they want you to DNS dumpster to obtain certified hacker domains, DNS servers along with GOP and domain mapping. Enter the IP address of the NS2 bluehost.com DNS server of the target domain. Okay. So here's I'm back to my DNS server here that I did for DS dumpster. I did for certified hacker. And I'm looking for the IP address of the ns2bluehost.com. Here's ns2bluehost.com. My IP address is 162.159.25175. I enter that here. And score correct. Now, I didn't say what to take screenshots of in this first lab, but be aware that I'll probably ask for screenshots showing that you have the screen here and your answer. So I'd probably want a giant screenshot of this proof. If you don't know how to do that, so you can always go to the snipping tool, come in here, take a screenshot, and take that screenshot. You'll have this, open up a Word document, label the lab you're working on, question 2.2.1.1, and paste your screenshot. That way I can see you have the answer and it's scored correct. If all your stuff's correct, obviously 100. If you miss something, obviously I would take some points off. But you can do these labs as many times as you want to get that correct. Okay. Just to give you an idea of what will probably happen in the future. I didn't really state anything on this one necessarily, but as we move forward, I'll probably have you submit screenshots, and that's how I want you to do it. Open up a document, put the screenshots in there for each of your questions, so I can validate those answers, and also prove that you did the work. All right, question 2.2.1.2, search for EC Council on Netcraft. Identify the operating system and web server hosting the website EC Council. All right, so I'm still here. So on our Netcraft, that was here. We went to identify the web server hosting the EC Council, what operating system it is. So let's see here. Really, honestly, everything's pretty much Linux. Let's see if you see anywhere else in here. You could probably scroll down through it, find other information down here. But if you went back to that first one here and we clicked on your domain, you would see that your servers are Linux. Is Linux. So we just come in here and type in Linux, score it. You know, maybe it's capital, maybe it's lowercase, maybe they take both. Okay. Again, label question 2.2.1.2. Screenshot the screen. Again, come back here. Take a screenshot. You know, even if it's got the other one in there, that's fine. And then paste that screenshot. So number one, I can see that you went to the website. I can see what you're looking for. And I can see the reason why you have your answer. Okay. And then you go to the next lab. So I'll close that out. Lab 3, perform footprinting through social networking sites. Okay, so that's the next one we'll work on. Again, read your information on what you're doing and why you're doing it. Obviously, you can get a lot of information off social networking sites, definitely personal information and so forth. That's why you always want to be careful on that. Here, we're going to look at, we're going after Elon Musk, it looks like here. We're going to do some information about him. All right. So they want you to turn on your Parrot Security virtual machine. So we'll go up here. Actually, let me go. We'll click on that Parrot Security one. It appears to be on, so we don't need to cut it on. Be aware that when this is a Linux environment, when you type passwords in a Linux environment, it does not show your password that you type. So type it, hit enter. If it's incorrect, it'll tell you it's incorrect. Right. So we type in the password, which is Tor, T-O-O-R. If I didn't type that correct, it would tell me. Alright, so I've now booted in. I will need to open up a terminal. And they want you to do a sudo su command. That's a Linux command that's super user if you haven't had Linux before. It sometimes will prompt you for a password. Again, type in that password Tor in this case. And that takes us into root. When you're in root, you can run a lot of things. You just want to be careful because you can change a lot of stuff in a Linux environment if you're in root. Alright, so we want to run the command Sherlock, which is a program that's going to go look Elon Musk and then we're going to run that. So it's looking for that username. I paused it for a second while I was doing the search. So you can see a lot of stuff shows up here when you do that user search. All right. And then when it finishes doing the search, it will come out down here. So here's your different search results. So this gives you information about things. Right? As it says, attackers could further use these gathered URLs to get information. So I could go to every one of these URLs, look up whatever information is being talked about, and gather stuff. We could run a page scanner on every one of these web links and put all that into a password cracking basically tool, and we could hash every word that's on every one of these websites to go try to crack passwords and build out a database there that, you know, could have birthdays, all that kind of stuff, dog names, family members, different stuff like that, to try to crack passwords. That's what they usually do. They'll scrub these accounts, pull up a lot of these pages, gather that information. They'll put it into some document that they can then use to target things. All right, especially with passwords. All right, so it kind of gives you all the information. So they basically give you a demonstration of how you can use that tool to go search for stuff. All right. So down here 6 says you can also use a tool such as Social Searcher. That's another one to gather information. So you can look up Social Searcher, see how that works. All right. So it says use the Sherlock tool to gather all the URLs related to Elon Musk from the various social networking sites. Enter the complete URL related to Elon Musk that is obtained from the social networking site Code Forces. So we just have to scroll up here and look for Code Forces. So here's Code Forces. This is the whole link. So we type that whole link in there. Hopefully you can just copy your link address. Come over here. Paste that in. If it doesn't let you paste it, you'll have to type it. So it doesn't let you copy and paste, so you got to type it. Alright, so I type in the whole URL for Code Forces. Hope I typed it right. Just so you know, this %20 is Unicode for a space. So %sign followed by the number 20 means space. If you didn't know that. So we got HTTPS. I got a call. Looks like that's what it is for Code Forces. Alright. And we score that. And that's correct. Again, take a screenshot of the whole thing so I can see that you ran the command and I can see that you got the command answered question correctly. So that's basically what they're having you do here. Perform a reconnaissance. And that was a Linux command you ran. That's the software built into this Linux workstation, so you're able to run that. All right. So we scored that. That was good. We got our screenshots, and we go to the next one. Now we're looking at Lab 4. Perform Whois footprinting. That's another tool that allows you to look up stuff. Again, read through the information about that command. We'll go back to our Windows 11. So we're here on our Windows 11. We'll open up our Firefox browser. Just close out this updated Firefox browser. If you get that, you can leave it, close it out. Alright. So we want to go to Whois domain. Alright, so we'll get this screen here. And it's going to do a lookup. Alright, it's going to look up a domain or an IP address and give you background information on that. Alright, so we want to look up. And if you experience a little bit of lag, just change the time of day you're working on the labs. Also, full screen and minimizing the screens can make a difference on how quick it responds. Right now, there's a little bit of lag on here. It tells me poor connection. Probably my network. Could be their network. The time of day can have an impact on that. There's a lot of things that can create poor connections. If you're watching a movie, streaming, while you're doing work, you'll slow down your connection. And so you can develop a lot of different stuff in there. So let me go back to Whois here, since I clicked on a lot of stuff that messed it up a little bit slower. But I tell you, in the IT world, guess what? Lag happens. Welcome to IT. And that's why you work on your networks to try to reduce that lag. You have your quality control set up. Different users can create lag depending on how many users are using the system at the time. So those are various things you would take care of if you're the network administrator, dealing with the platforms. The more virtual machines that are running, the slower it'll be. Your computer speed, your home speed, their network speed, the server speed, how many people are doing stuff on the internet. There's a lot of stuff that can impact the speed of how things work. So a lot of stuff can come into play there. From your browser standpoint, you can always clear your browser cache. You can reboot your router to clear out the old junk it stores up over time. There's a lot of things you can do to try to speed that up. So just to show you, since there's nothing actually overly special about what we're doing right now, I went ahead because there's a little lagging here. You can do this on your own Windows computer, right? Here's I pulled up who is on my Windows machine. I'm going to type in www certified hacker. Now it could give you different results potentially. Right. Validation, fine. Alright, so we looked that up while this is loading to get you the same kind of screen you would see here, right? So we do this search, we see our information. Here's our register. So don't think always that some of the stuff you possibly couldn't do outside of it. Just be aware. There's always a chance the answers could be slightly different. But a screenshot would also help proving that if you do your screenshots correct, right? So let's pull up this information here. And so you can kind of see what's there. Name servers, IP addresses again, location, their domain registry records, previous website look, or the current website look. Just depends. Go to the website. Different stuff like that. So that kind of gives you an idea of where you might can come look up information for. You can kind of build out stuff. You can kind of get an idea what you want to do or attack. There's some other tools here. They show smart who is. And a batch IP converter. Right. So let's see here. Let's go. So here's Tomosoft they're showing there. Smart who is if you wanted to download that. You also have a batch converter you could download from the other site they show on there. Right. Not sure why this particular one wants to lag for this one particular website area, but for some reason it does. So we want to perform a whois lookup using domain tools and find the URL that belongs to the register of the website certified hacker. Alright. So if I go back to my domain tools here, we are looking for the URL that belongs to the register of the website. Here's the register. We're looking for the URL right there. So it's HTTP. The only downside since I did it off my regular computer is that I have to put it so I can see it. Let me drag that over here. Alright, so we got P network solutions. Right. And if I type that correctly, we have our answer. Again, if you use this one, just take you you know, like I said, you can do this outside this lab if that's being an issue. Screenshot it so I can see it. So you got it all. I can see you did the lookout. I can see you got the answer, and I can see that you did it. Not quite sure why this whois wants to be slow. It's probably because it has this graphic running in the background, and they probably didn't give very much memory to this virtual machine here, so it probably runs a little sluggish. That's other things that could make your virtual machine speed up, memory, stuff like that. Alright, so going to our next lab, lab 5 here, we're going to perform a DNS footprinting. Alright, so this gives you the information again on DNS servers, domain name servers, how you go about doing the lookup on that. I'm going to close this browser out since it wants to be a little slow. And you can always adjust full screen, smaller screens. It can make a difference. Alright, so I'm going to look at this gathering DNS information. So we want to launch the command prompt. Alright, and do that a couple different ways. We get a little search here. Here's command prompt. If you want to do it that way, you can come here and type in command prompt. I'd run it as administrator if it lets you. I'd always run that as administrator if you're going to do anything of significance. We're looking at the NS lookup command. So if we do NS lookup, we'll see it's going to Google, which is 8888. So we're also like we're involved in it. So let's go set type equals A. Hit enter. So we got set type A. Alright, so then we're going to look for our targeted domain here, which is www.certifiedhacker.com. Hit enter. We'll see our name, we'll see our address, and we'll see our alias. Just to let you know how the domain name server works. We know google.com. The computer and the internet does not. The computer and the internet knows Google as 8888. It'll know this certified hacker as 162.241.216.11. So the domain name server takes this number and it translates it to the actual name. It's easier for us to remember names. It'd be a lot harder if we had to remember numbers when we wanted to go on the internet. So that's what the domain name server does. It translates that number to a name, so it's a lot easier for you to traverse the internet. So since it comes back and says non-authoritative here, it goes, we want to obtain the domain's authoritative name server, so we want to change this set type here. So set type equals name. Hit enter. Then we want to come back to our website again. Try this again. So we'll do our set type CNAME. I type www just see if we get something different here. Get rid of that. And you get a little bit different. So didn't need the www on the front. As you see in the instructions, they don't have the www there where they have the www up here. So all that stuff can make a difference. And now we're getting our authoritative version here. Here's our primary name server. Our mail server. And a little bit of other information. So since we have the authoritative name server, we will need to determine the IP address of the name server. So we're going to come down here and set another one. Set type equals A. And then we're going to type in the NS1 Bluehost. Enter, and we get the IP address for that server. So I tell you, the authoritative name server stores the records associated with the domain. So if an attacker can determine the authoritative name server and contains its associated IP address, they can attempt to exploit the server to perform attacks such as DOS, DDoS, URL redirection. You can also have DNS injection, stuff like that. And it says you can perform the same type of operations using NS lookup online tool, conduct a series of queries and review the information to gain familiarity with the NS lookup tool and gather information. So now it has you use a lookup online tool to gather information about this particular place. Okay. So we're going to do an online lookup. So I'll close that out. I open up my Firefox. And I'm going to go to the website. Alright, so HTTP, ClothNet services, NS PHP here. Alright, so it brings us to our website here. We want to enter this in the domain. We have www.certifiedhacker. certifiedhacker.com. The query, we want to change it to the default, which is what it already is at, which is okay. And we will hit look it up. Here we can see the non-authoritative answer that we got when we did the NSUp lookup in the command prompt. You got other options in here. We can look for the IP6, look that up. We can see whatever they have on that. just to see if it clears it out a little bit. There's my certified hacker website, and then I'm gonna go do my IP4, look it up, and see get that. So, you know, you could always refresh it. It does query type here. It's telling you it's that. So you can look information up here. And again, it goes back to you can use the DNS dumpster too that we looked at earlier. So it comes down here to this question. Use the NSUp lookup command line utility to find the primary name server of the website www certified hacker. Now I closed it out. All right. So you can always come back in here. Here's my command line. I'd run as administrator. And I'm basically going to come back and I want to find the primary name server of the certified hacker website. No, I closed mine out. But if you remember what the commands were, we did ns lookup. Did I type it correctly? Right. We did the NS lookup. Then we went through setting a bunch of different things. But if I do set type CNAME, and then certified hacker.com. We're looking for a primary name server. Here was that primary name server that we got when we were going through earlier. We just need to type that in here. Type that in. Score it. Hopefully that's correct. Give me a screenshot showing me what you entered and being scored correctly. Again, like I said, I'm not going to be that picky on this lab since I didn't tell you this earlier. I wanted to do this video earlier, just didn't get a chance to. But in future labs, do it that way. Whatever you score, I want a screenshot so I can see proof of you doing the lab and your answer. Right. And that finished that one. Then we roll on to the next one. Right. Here's lab 6. Right. Going to perform network footprinting. So it's going to perform trace routing. Just to do a fresh start. I would clear that out, but I'll just do a fresh one. So you can see. We're going to be looking at the command prompt again. So let's just go back into our command prompt. Alright, so when we open up here, we're going to look at trace route. That's going to give us the network hops back to locations on how many packets and it takes for it to get to certain places and so forth. So we're going to run a trace route and WD certified hacker.com and see how many hops it takes to go from where we're starting to this location, and it's going to tell you what you go through. Now be aware that a lot of places no longer let you see the endpoint, so you'll have a lot of routes going, say, from your computer to your router to the internet to some other place, and then it may get to their company and you might see part of it, and then you may get to the endpoint where you'll see some timeouts or it won't answer anything because a lot of companies no longer let you see this information. Because it can be used for hacking. Like if you try to do Google, it's probably not going to come up very much, especially if you're going to certain things. So just be aware that you might see a lot of hops when it gets to the internet, and then it kind of doesn't go anywhere after that. Just be aware that could show up. All right, so we can see how that if we wanted to come here and do that trace route command with the /help, that will tell us other options to check when we run this command. Then they have you do a trace route Also, for your own knowledge, if you hit the up arrow, it will bring you back to your previous commands. And you can always edit it or add on to it or rerun it so you don't have to retype it. So it helps you be faster. Right. So that H does is 5 hops. So we're only going to check the 5 hops. You know, maybe you don't want to see all the results to where it gets to in the end. You're wanting to really see where it goes in your network. You're not as concerned about what happens once it leaves your network. So maybe you'll limit it to just your hops and so forth to see what's being shown and what information you can get out of it. So they have us check that out. So that's the command you can run. Now they want us to go over to your parent security one now. So I'm back over here. It wants us to open a terminal window. I never closed out the old one. You know, if I want to, I could close it out. I could reuse this one. Alright, so here's my terminal. Doesn't really say that I need to be in administrator or anything like that. So I'm just going to come in here and run my trace route. Note that we are no longer in Windows, we are in Linux. So you have to actually type it out. Trace route as opposed to previous where we did not. And you can see everything is going through. All the same stuff you got when you ran it from the Windows should be the same. For some reason, their Linux machine seems to be a little weird on the screen refresh. And I was going to show you the other two commands that they'll show up here. But you'll notice here in this last question, it says perform network trace routing using trace route command on the parent machine for the certified hacker domain, which we just did. Enter the IP address of the target domain. Well, the target domain is going to be the end result, right? If we had Google here, or we had a server location, or we had something particular we're looking at, it's going to be the end result we come to, right? And in this case, that's the 162.241.216.11. That's what our target is, because that's our hops. The beginning is our network. At the end is where we're wanting to go. Okay. So we'll type this in here. 162.241.216.11. Score it. It's good. Screenshot. I can see you ran the command. I can see where you got your results from. And I can see you got the answer correct. Just to see if these commands are set up in here. They may not be. But let's see. So they don't have ping potter set up. You have to download and install that, and I'm gonna assume the other one is too. Those are commands or programs you could install, or you might could run that in Windows. You may have to go to the website to run it, and so forth. So you can check those out. But that finished that one. We go to Lab 7 here. All right. So it's going to do perform an email footprinting. All right, so that's the next thing we're going to do is email footprinting. So we're going to try to get information such as the IP address, different coordinates, servers, all that kind of information. You can get a lot of information out of email. Some of that stuff is not always displayed anymore, or it's not obvious unless you go cut on certain features. So just be aware of that. So this lab goes back to our Windows machines. So I'm going to go back to our Windows. I feel like the Linux one runs a little bit slower than this Windows one does. Alright, so this is where we're wanting to go. So we're going to open up our folder. Looks like. They want us to go over to E. CEH tools. Go down to module 2 footprinting, which is here. Email tracker, email tracking tools, email tracker pro, and you have that. Gonna run that command. And let's install it. So it's going to open up and run. Now we just hit OK. Alright, so it's going to say screen will show here. And to trace email headers, click the My Trace Reports. My Trace Reports. Alright, so we got that. We're going to click the trace headers. So trace an email I have received, which is here. So, okay, so we got it installed here. And so if you go down, it's going to say to finding email headers, open any web browser and log into any email of your choice. So log into one of your emails, go grab some email message that's okay to play with. Here it is in Gmail. If you're in Outlook, this tells you how to find that information. You'll copy the entire email header text and paste it into here and click trace. Okay. So I'm going to pause this while I go get an email, and then I'll come back once I've pasted it. Okay, so I just pulled up a generic email here so I can show you the steps on finding it. So remember, you have to log in through the virtual machine, otherwise you won't be able to copy and paste. Again, a lot of this you could probably actually do on your own computer. Following those steps along, if you really don't want to use their virtual machine for most of this, I would think you're probably okay up until maybe the AI use of the lab. But in this particular version, you might be okay doing some of the reconnaissance stuff. Again, so I logged into my email here, Outlook. It says go to more actions, which is here. It says go to view, and I'm going to get message details. Try that again. View. So I kept clicking on it, but it was actually behind on the other screen. So you just highlight all this, copy, copied in there, it looks like automatically. Hit trace. I was going through the process of all the servers this email went through to get to where I am, and also where it came from. Now, be aware this stuff can get spoofed, but some things cannot be. So be aware that although some things in between can get spoofed, some items cannot. So it's going to trace everything. It says the trace is complete. You can view, here's your email summary, and then tell you all about it. I can give you the network information, right? Domain who is, the email header that we pasted in there, right? The table here shows us the hops, everywhere it went through to get from point A to point B. And, you know, location guesses. I find it interesting that if it somehow went from Florida to Japan to Seattle back to America. That's very interesting if that really was what happened. We can look at the who is data again in the summary. And we can see all that. So it's a lot of information you can get out of that. Again, they show you some other tools, MX Toolbox, Social Catfish, some other tools you can play around with and look at. So it comes down here to the question, on the Windows 11 machine, use right? To gather information about email, analyze the email header, observe the output, and enter yes if the tool contains the abuse reporting feature, else enter no. Here's the abuse reporting feature. To automatically generate an email abuse report, click here. So it does have that feature. So we should be able to just type yes. That's correct. Again, screenshot. And then we're good with that one. We can go on to our next lab. Here's number 8. All right. So this is going to perform footprinting using various footprinting tools. It gives you a scenario. Read through that. The tool we're going to use, and where we're going to go as our target. All right. So that wants us to go over here to the parent machine. So I'll switch over to it. So in the terminal, it wants to open one up. I already have one open, so I'll just do the sudo. And you could always do a clear for Linux commands. That'll clear your screen off. And I'm going to do a sudo su. Again, it's going to ask you probably for your password, which was Tor, T-O-O-R. So now it wants us to run the cd command. There's cd. Alright, so that puts us in the root directory. And then we're going to run the command to launch the application. They want us to type help to view everything. So help. That lets us see all the potential commands. It seems like there's not as much lag now, so it could vary between lag, time of day, stuff like that. I'm going to run marketplace. So I'd say if you have a lag a little bit, you can always come back. Now it seems to behave pretty well. So we're going to install this particular application. It says ignore any errors that might come up. And then after the installation of the modules, we're going to run module search command. Which should display all the modules available. Alright. So that finishes. Let's do modules search. So here's our different modules. It's going to show in here. And you can see it's responding a lot better now. So again, if you have a little bit of lag, just be aware that, you know, maybe you need to go out, come back, save your lab where you are, and just come back later when maybe a lot of people aren't using it or the network's not heavy. It's also possible their network is really busy certain times as well. Alright, so we want to run the workspaces command. So we're going to see the related stuff. There's my workspaces. That's the command usage of it. So we're going to create a workspace in which to perform network reconnaissance in this task. We shall be creating a workspace named CEH. So to create that workspace, we're going to run workspaces, create CEH, and hit enter. When it finishes, we would do workspaces list. We can see the CEH is showing. We want to add a domain in which we want to perform the network reconnaissance. So we're going to issue the command db insert domains. It's going to give us a domain text option. We want to type certifiedhacker.com. Press enter. In the notes, don't need anything, we just hit enter. But you could put notes there if you wanted to. So now we can do show domain command. Now we see it showing here, our domain. And now we got 50 says harvest the host related information associated by loading the network reconnaissance modules Bluehost, Netcraft, and Bing. So we're going to do modules load brute. Right. And then we're going to use that brute force one. So then we go modules, load recon/domains, host, brute host. Note that we are in Linux, so capitalization matters, and you know, obviously spelling matters too. If you don't type the right stuff, things won't work. So that's going to load it. So that's loaded, and then we're going to issue the run command. That's going to go harvest. Right. So let's run. So a lot's going on. So now we harvested whatever may be there. It says 21 total, 19 new found. So now we've harvested the host related to certifiedhacker.com using the brute host modules. There's also Netcraft and Bing. You can harvest more. So it says brute force. I can hit the back command. That takes us back to the beginning there. And then we can do another one. We can do modules, load, recon, domains, host, Bing _ domain _ web, and run. So we did that. So now it wants us to perform a reverse lookup for each IP address that was obtained and resolve them to the host names. All right. So we're going to need to load this one here. So let's go modules, load, reverse, and so to do that, we're gonna have to run this. So we'll do modules, load, recon, host / reverse _ resolve. We load that. Right. And then run. So it goes back and it does a lookup. You can see it's got an IP address here it found. So it says once done with the reverse lookup process, run the show host command. And so now you can see all the hosts. Then we'll use the back command. And now that we have a bunch harvested, we want to make a report containing all that. So we're going to do modules load reporting. So we want it in reporting. So we will then run it. I'll hit the up arrow so I can bring back my previous commands. I got reporting HTML. It runs that. It says here the customer option. Like I said, observe that you need to assign values for creator and customer option. While the file name value is already set, you may change the value if required to do so. It gives us what we need to set here. Option set, file name, and so forth. Option set, and option set to customer. Okay. So let's go. Options set. File name. Again, be aware of the capitalization, because if you don't type it correct, you will not get it. So we got that. We'll do options set creator should be your name. And then we'll do options set customer. Certified hacker. Networks. Alright. And then now we run that. So the report's generated. This is where it was generated at. So we can navigate to that location and open that. Alright, it's on my desktop. Now open it. As it's like open, I also can come in here and right click it, open with, and we pick Firefox. They say pick the ESR web browser, so we'll pick that one. It gives us our report. You got the host down here. You can see your name is down here. So you can see all the hosts, all the IP addresses that you got. So that kind of helps out. So now they'll use it together. Personal information. All right. So we just got information here. So now we're going to come back and look at some other stuff. Right, so I'm going to close this out here. Go back to my terminal. You could open a new terminal. It's up to you. Yeah, they want you to create a new one, so what I'll do is I'll just exit out of this. See if it takes that command, so I'm out. They have you type the sudo su command, but I'm still in root, so I'm not going to type that here, but if you needed to, you just type that command again. Okay. So I'm going to run my cd command. I'm going to do my recon ng. Now, since that was there, I could have just backed out of that and just run a new one, but I'm going to start it from the beginning just to make sure I get in the right spot and everything. So, reran it, back in it. I'm going to need to create the workspace. So, workspaces, create. Reconnaissance. So I now have my workspace. So now I'm going to do my modules. Load recon / domains contacts who is underscore POC, obviously point of contacts, right? So we load that. So next we do the info command. Info command. So we want options, set source, facebook.com. And then run. So we get some information here. So we should have some interesting. So if we look here, it says note down the names, but you got what? Brandon Stout, Chicago, Illinois. Could always be different depending on whose job it is. But right now it's Brandon Stout there. So we're going to go get a list of subdomains. So we note their contacts, close all the open windows. That's fine. We're going to open another terminal window and execute sudo su to run the program. Now we could open another terminal, leave this one open. We could close it out. We could even clear this one out, but I'm just going to come in here and open up another terminal. Since they just say do that, sudo su, tor, and I'm back into my root. Then we run cd, back to recon ng. That boots up, and since we're going after subdomains, we need to load the recon domain. for hacker target. So we're going to come in here and do modules, load, recon, domains, host, hacker target, and just trying to get you too confused. So they have two terminals up. Just cover up what's showing that one there. Alright, I just closed the one behind, and since it seems like the Linux runs a little bit slower and multiple terminals makes it run a little bit slower, so I just minimized it. Alright, so I loaded my hacker target one. So we need to set some options. So I'm coming here and go options, set source, certifiedhacker.com, and I just, yep, so it's spelled right. Now we want to run. It's going through the run, pull those IP addresses. So now we have subdomains, IP addresses. When we did the Facebook, we got a name if we wanted to use a name. And that's how people kind of do social engineering a lot of times too, or find websites or servers to try to go after of, or they try to map out a network so they have an idea how that network's laid out so that they can attack it and figure out plans on it. So that kind of finishes their demonstration here on how things work. They come down here and say use Recon NG tool to gather personal information. Enter the Recon module name that extracts the contacts associated with the domain and displays them. So we're looking for the one that's going to do the display. So if you go back and look, and it should be Recon / domains, contacts, who is _ POCS, point of contact. And assuming I typed that correct, that should show up. You know, if you want to go back and find where you had it in your terminal, that's fine, go back. But that's the one that's going to give you that. If nothing else, screenshot your answer so I know you got that in there. And if you have it on your screenshot, you can bring that up too. So then that finishes that part. Now we come to 9. Alright, this is where that AI code you entered comes into play. And you'll go through and do your description here, read this lab, and you'll utilize that to complete this lab part. Right. So footprinting a target using shell GTP. So you're going to use AI to do some of this, right? So we're going to come over here to our Parrot security one, which is what we're in still. We want to log in. Yep, that's all good. We're still in Tor. What I would do is, I just exit out of here. All right. So I'm still back in root. I'll do a clear so I can get back to the top here. This is where you'd enter that AI activation key. And it also gives you a description of how you move them back and forth. So I just bring up the shell here so you can see AI activation key information. So make sure you get that. A lot of times that gets messed up when you're trying to get accessed here, that might get blocked by Mitchell's website, so just make sure you might have to email them to get that unblocked so you can finish setting up things if that happens. Here it tells you how to use your AI key credit for getting the code, transferring the AI key from the host machine to the parent, which is a security one. Here's directions on how you do that, and here's a tutorial on that if you need assistance with that. Alright, so in the parent here, you'd run your bash sgpt.sh. In this case, since I'm still in the directory path, I actually probably should just exit and then come back in. And then I'm in the right area. Then when I run the bash sgpt.sh shell, it asks you for that activation key. Then you enter that activation key that you have, and then you can continue with that lab to complete it. I'll have to get my activation key. It wouldn't let me download mine, so I have to do that. So I may upload that as a separate lab on this, but again, you come down, you enter your information here, screenshot it, and then you should be able to complete the lab. And at that point, upload all your screenshots with your answers, and then you're good.